this takes us to asylum seekers. And like I said, this is a very hot topic right now, and it's another one that myself I struggle with because, like I said, I'm from Nigeria. I'm British Nigerian, just like our conservative leader.
Like Kemi.
You like Kemi, but I associate with Nigeria. I'm proud. But the thing is, when you have war or instability in an area of the country, and you're an asylum seeker, you tend to go to the safest state you could seek. There's security, and then you settle that. And maybe in years and years to come, you can decide to go back home or go elsewhere. Now, a lot of the people that claim asylum in the UK came because of war that was started by the West, instability and all that. But they've gone through Turkey, which is a safe country, Greece, another safe country, Germany, another safe country, France, a safe country. Can we still term them as asylum seeker if they decide to come to the UK? At one point, did they become an economic migrant?
Well, that's a really interesting point, and you're starting to sound like a Nigel there in that regard,
Yeah.
which is what. Now, I think that there's a number of issues to unpack. When you talk about safe, they might not be at risk of being shot. But Turkey, I think, has in excess of 3 or 4 million asylum seekers. I mean, what is a genuine asylum seeker? Now that the UN talks about people that have a fear of, on the basis of race, sex, identity, political opinion, imputed political opinion, there's a variety of categories. And you are right that a lot of the problems occur either in sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, and some of those problems might be seen to have been caused by the UK's involvement with, for example, the war in Iraq.
Yeah, and the war in Libya.
War in Libya, again, another where the UK had a direct involvement with, and they pursued, and I can understand why they wished to do it, regime change, because the rulers were evil people. Having said that, history ought to tell us that regime change very rarely is a smooth process, and the idea of a Western liberal democracy or a democracy, it's taken many countries many years to establish them. So simply thinking we could just impose this, we can get rid of a system and then everything's going to be fine. It's not worked. So you have these huge numbers of people that want to travel. And I think that the starting point for me would be, before looking at what's a genuine asylum seeker, is how many do we get? If we have 39, 40,000, 50,000 people claiming asylum, of that, 37,000 of them are likely to be recognised as refugees. We're a population of 70 million people. There is a question, I think, for me, as to, as a country that has prides itself on being a liberal, on an open society, is it right or is it not right that we take our fair share? And if we are taking 30 or 40,000 asylum seekers and granting them refugee status and trying to assimilate them into the UK, we are one of the 6th or 7th richest countries in the world. We can afford it if we choose to do it. The money spent on asylum seekers or refugees, whilst it's a huge amount of money and it's been mismanaged, isn't going to, if we got rid of all of the asylum seekers, they're not going to be building 15 new hospitals in the next year. So I think there's a bigger picture, which is, do we want to be the sort of country that says we're just not going to take anyone?
Yeah.
And if we do, then that would be something that people would form a view on and make happen. And it would be, for me, I wouldn't like it, but if the population in a democracy decided we were not going to take anybody, then obviously we would respect that.
Yeah.
But we don't take that many.
So, like I was saying, I'm not saying that the UK should not take its fair share of asylum seekers. In fact, I believe that it should. But if somebody comes, I see UK as a country where if you're able to lie and cheat, you will be better off than somebody that is honest. And I will explain. So,
are we talking about Boris Johnson?
A little bit. You have people that claim that they are being domestically abused, so they're seeking asylum. People that claim that they're going to be persecuted because they have same-sex relationship, or that they are Christians in a country of Muslims. So they are practically lying to suit into our system so that they can give an asylum. In fact, I know a particular case where somebody had claimed that they were domestically abused, and so the husband left the UK, but they still get to see each other in France while she was still on discretionary leave to remain in the UK. So there's been a lot of abuse in the system. I believe if the UK wants to take asylum seekers, we should go to the war zones where they have the refugee camps and have representatives there who then bring people like we did with Ukraine and maybe some Afghanistan. So what is your take on this?
I mean, I think you've raised an important point. I think the answer is that we need what's called safe and legal routes for people. How that would work, I'm not really sure, but people cleverer than me can work that out. But a safe and legal route would enable the United Kingdom to simply not take people that arrive on small boats, or would be they would gather a lot more sympathy if they refuse to take them. At the moment, the system rewards the people smugglers, the traffickers, because you get into the United Kingdom, you're not really going to stand much chance of being removed. And you're right, the agents will assist people in fabricating claims. I'm aware of people that have made a claim on the basis of their sexuality. I'm a gay man, I'll go back to my country, I'll be killed. They get their refugee status, and then they pop in and tell me they want to sponsor their wife.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Two
well, that's
wives.
not going to be very good. How are you going to get around that one? So safe and legal routes where people from, as you say, war-torn countries or countries that have gone through a crisis can make the application and be relocated, which have worked in Afghanistan, has worked in Ukraine, so it can work. Would be, and say for Afghanistan, people might travel to Pakistan and make the application from there, come to the United Kingdom. That way the government can control the numbers of people, and that way the ability or the opportunity for abuse might be reduced. There are, so that I think is the holistic approach to it. Now, obviously, if a government in today's climate said, well, we're going to allow 20, 30, 40,000 asylum seekers, refugees we'll call them, not because they would have been screened before they come here, refugees by safe and legal routes, whether some of the parties on the right would say, well, that's a great thing, or whether they would say, oh, why should we take this person, and why should we take that person, it remains to be seen. But you're right, the system at the moment is completely broken. It does reward people that are dishonest. And there's another thing which I think isn't talked about very often. I've had the privilege of travelling to places, both in sub-Saharan Africa and in the subcontinent. I have seen people that live there in crushing poverty, not clothes, no sanitation. Those people who are, in some cases, the victims of war, they are not going to be able to afford to pay a people smuggler to take them from sub-Saharan Africa or Bangladesh to come to the United Kingdom. And this is what people aren't talking about, is that if, for example, we're having this conversation now and we're both in the subcontinent and we decide that one of us is going to claim asylum, it is going to cost us a lot of money. If the average wage for normally people is $4 or $5 a day, and we're going to somehow find $20,000 or $30,000 to get somebody into the UK, we are probably quite affluent in our own country.
Yes.
So the people that really need the benefit probably can't afford it, and that's often women or children or marginalised communities. So, and no one really wants to talk about the fact that a lot of the people that turn up on the small boats have paid £10,000, £15,000.
Absolutely.
Which, given their account of living in a mountain somewhere in a hut with no running water, where that money has come from is never explained.
Absolutely.
I think that's one of an unspoken issue.
So why are the politicians scared to talk about this? Because it's clear to everybody. It's clear to you. It's clear to me. As an immigrant, I know that if you're a victim of war or domestic violence or anything, you're running with probably the clothes you have on. You cannot afford to pay any people smuggler. So why is nobody talking about this? Why are they ignoring that fact?
That is beyond me, because I would have thought that some of the people on the right would have actually seized upon the fact. And I think they have in the past. They've said, well, how is it that these people come here? But then a lot of the conversations in respect of asylum, refugees, is quite superficial. As you say, we could look at having safe and legal routes to take the people that need to be here, but that would involve some time and investment and some political capital. I simply don't understand why people don't. Then we have the Home Office not really, and again, the Home Office is overworked, and I have sympathy for them, for the people at the front end. But the Home Office is a large organisation. I think they have trouble with retention. So the quality of the staff is quite low.
Because they're not paying well enough.
And I think that's partly a problem, is that some of the decisions that I see are appalling. And I look at the decision. I think this was written by a small child. I had a decision recently, and it's a little amusing. So I was reading it, and it said, and it was to do with bringing family up, and it was a very tragic case. And it said, the line said, we accept you meet the financial requirement. The next line said, we do not accept you meet it. The next line said, we accept you meet the relationship. The next line, we do not accept you meet the relationship. I read the entire letter, and I read it 2 or 3 times, and I thought, I'm struggling with this. And then I had a conference with the client, and the client has significant mental health problems. And the client said, I read the letter, and I phoned my psychiatrist. And I laughed, and he said, well, I was going to, I thought I'd lost it.
Yeah.
And so this type of letter, no care has gone into it. And yet the Home Office would charge you £2,000, £3,000, £4,000 to make the application. And yet the quality of decision making is poor. So I think that there's a level that nobody really wants to get to grips with this, or it's investment, which again touches upon the issue of asylum accommodation. And this is a fantastic one for people to beat migrants over, which is asylum hotels, 4-star hotels.
You can't lodge in any hotel without having asylum seekers living in one of the rooms that you cannot afford. So people have the right to be mad about this.
But what I don't understand is why people are protesting outside the hotel, because the asylum seeker didn't choose to go there.
No, they didn't.
And the asylum seeker, so this again falls into the issue of investment. If the Home Office had enough staff and dealt with the cases within 2 or 3 weeks or 2 or 3 months, then the number of people in those hotels would diminish.
But will it though? Because it will now go to court. So the Home Office, if they reject a case, it goes to court. It takes a long time, if I'm right.
Again, if we take that there are 10 asylum seekers, the figures that, broadly speaking, I think are accurate. 5 of those asylum seekers are going to be recognised as refugees. If, for example, they come from Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, up until about last year. So 5 of them are going to be recognised. The acceptance rates for some of those countries was around 97, 98%. So 5 of them are going to be given status. So keeping them waiting for a year and a half, you're putting them in accommodation, you're preventing them from working properly, and given that there's going to be no change in their country of origin, they're going to get a visa. Another 2.5 people are going to succeed at their appeal. So out of the 10 people in our hotel, 7 or 8 of them are going to get a visa. If you sped up the process, then you'd only have 2 people in that hotel for any length of time. And then another thing which may not be that popular by saying, I have no conceptual difficulty with them using
the military
bases.
Yeah.
I think that there's the investment in that, putting people into a military base, making sure that they have the facilities, the healthcare, access to lawyers, I think is it must be done. They can't just be ghettoized and left to rot as they have in some places. But if you did that, people would, and I don't think it would stop people from coming, but I think that they would come, they would be processed, they would not, the asylum budget would be reduced because we're not paying the hotels and the private companies that are making a fortune out of it. So that would take them off the high street, first of all, would save a lot of money. If you sped up the process so people weren't waiting a year and a half for a decision, then the people that were entitled to visas would get them. then they would lose their entitlement to accommodation for the state. They would have to work. And so I think that's a huge problem, that a large injection of both political capital and financial capital to create somewhere for these people to stay while their claims are being processed, coupled with an investment in the court service. Because, as you mentioned, I go to court, I've been going to court for a long time now. There's a court, I'm not going to mention, they have 23 courts. You go there and they have 7 or 8 judges. So they're unable, and I think that's across the board. So the number of cases waiting in appeals, probably in excess of 50,000. And they can't apparently recruit enough judges. So the appeal backlog. So if you're right, you make a quick decision, it's negative, then it goes into the appeal process. So again, it seems to me resources. They've starved the Home Office, they've under-recruited in the judiciary, and then they're moaning. It's like putting stones in your shoe and complaining. It's obvious to anybody that the investment in the Home Office, proper accommodation that's not hotels, recruit enough judges, you have a system that deals with people
that works
quickly.
Now, let's not talk about the system that could potentially only allow people that need it. We talked about the legal and safe route, and discourage people that are using the boat. Because it's another thing that I thought the current Prime Minister, when he was campaigning, and he was saying, we will smash the gang and eliminate boat crossing. And I thought to myself, now we're going to have a problem here. Why? Because I felt he didn't understand what the problem was. Then he blamed boat crossing on Brexit, that it happened after Brexit. No, the first case of boat crossing happened before Brexit. And the reason why they started using the boat was becoming difficult to use the lorries, because the Home Office did a lot of work in Calais and Dover to prevent people from using the vehicle. So they have this carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide monitors and all of that stuff. So people devised another means. So there was a market for the gang to use. But at the end of the day, we need to think about the attraction. When Rishi Sunak and the Conservative proposed the Rwandan scheme, the number of people coming dropped because nobody wants us to be taken to Africa. So, yeah, it did. Yeah. So
by a small number.
Yeah, but it was still a deterrent. They started going to Ireland.
Right, but I would disagree. I would think that there's no real proof that it was anything other than the weather or anything other than the economic situation, because I don't think any migrants never came because of Rwanda or the threat of being removed.
And they did interview some people though, and they said they will wait till after the election before they come, because they don't want to be taken to Africa. And we need a deterrent, because when we ask ourselves a question, why do people pay a lot of money to want to come to the UK? Why do you think they pay a lot of money to want to be here?
Because it's a welcoming society that offers, for people that are hardworking, the opportunity to get ahead. It's an open society. It's a tolerant society, despite what we read. And again, we've had several hundred years of telling everyone we're the best country in the world. So you're a victim of your own success in that regard. But Rwanda, I think, was just, I think 4 people went, and they went voluntarily. In the end, it turned out to be the best part of £1 billion, a couple of 100 million short. For what? Did it really reduce the number of people? There was a dip, but whether that was to do with, as I say, the weather, political instability, or whether it was because of that anyone genuinely thought the Rwanda scheme was going to work. And if you're someone that's paid a lot of money, and again, there's another thing which I think people don't talk about, which is because the UK has such a wide section of people from around the world.
Yes.
If I'm looking to relocate, we're talking about an economic migrant rather than an asylum seeker. I want a better way of life. Where am I going to go? If I go to the UK, there are X number of people from my community. I can go there, I can assimilate within that community, and I can find some work. And that will be the main attraction. The fact that the UK, I think, has so many different communities that generally live together quite comfortably, that's the attraction, that it is an open and tolerant society. And again, that's a bigger question, which is, do we want to lose the open, tolerant, multicultural society, and do we want to lose all of that, and then all the various communities police each other? Oh, it's another Nigerian. I'm not sure he's a legal one. That fella talks, he's got a bit of a Syrian accent. Do we all want to be like policing each other and living in that state of fear? And the numbers, for me, and a lot of people won't agree, are quite small. And I think that the country can tolerate them. And most people do not come here to live on benefits.
No.
They come here to work. Now, why do they come here to work? Because there are jobs. So if you wanted a larger conversation, you could look at the several million English people, British people, that are not economically active. And then you could look at the fact that that we have a welfare state that acts like an opiate.
Yeah.
People get onto it. You have 3 or 4 generations in some places of people that have never worked.
And it's meant to be a short-term thing. Now it's become a way of life.
Way of life, generational.
Yeah.
So you have this situation where nobody wants to talk about
So
that.
let's deal with that first before we start talking about people that genuinely wants to work.
We have people that come here that will go out. In the UK, it often rains and it's cold. And I would be surprised that I think I had one person deliver something to my door that spoke in an accent that was similar to mine. And my wife, and pretty much everybody I know likes things to be delivered, whether that's food, whether it's the post, whether it's parcels.
Either it's raining, snowing,
burning,
burning,
cold, miserable. And yet generationally, we have people in different parts of the United Kingdom and London that just have never worked, have no intention apparently of working. And I don't necessarily blame them and say, oh, you're lazy or idle. They've grown up potentially
see that
in this.
Yes.
They are victims of themselves. And because society or the government at the time doesn't want to address this, and if they try to cut down on this, they're seen as the nasty party. And the other parties perhaps rely on them for their votes. Whereas there's I think 1 million young people that they refer to as NEETs, not in education or employment. 1 million. These aren't people that are generationally sick or not working. 1 million people, I think, between 18 and 24 that just are not economically active.
They just don't want to work, and they just need to claim that they have a tennis elbow and they get BMW.
Not anymore. They can probably have a Nissan or something. But but the younger people, but I get the point. But the younger people that are in the prime of their life, that 1 million of them are not economically active. Now, if they became economically active, doing jobs that perhaps they think are beneath them, then if people are not going to, I think potentially there would be less people spending £20,000 to come to the United Kingdom, to live in a community, to live in a house with 7 or 8 other people, and they go, well, can you get a job? And there's no work. And then that would be the biggest because that would stop people, because no one will come here if they were living on £30 or £40 a week.
As long as the jobs are there, people will come here. So if we take our jobs ourselves without sitting on our ass and waiting for the government to give us some money, then it will solve all the immigration problems.
If you have 3 or 4 million people that potentially could do some sort of work, and at least 1 or 2 million young people that definitely could do work, if they were all working, a number of things. If there was still a need for migrants, then we would need migrants. If after those people became economically active, then those people that started working would be contributing to the economy, so that would potentially help the UK generally. And I think there's an important thing, which is that this is self-defeating for the UK, which is the people that arrive illegally or overstay or work illegally are not contributing directly to they're not paying tax.
No, they are. Because they're taking money on the hand. They're being paid cash.
So they're working illegally.
Yes.
So again, it's the individual that comes here that pays the people smuggler. It is the person that provides work that's avoiding paying their obligations. And if there was a very much smaller unemployment rate of people, or people that were not working were working, then there wouldn't be migrants. And I think that the unemployment figure's gone up to 4 or 5%, which is the highest it's been for a while.
Yes.
Well, I don't understand why we have such a high official employment rate and people are still coming, and they come and then they work.
Because there are jobs, and people just don't want to do them because of what you said. And it blows my mind that people just want to sit and not do anything. And you can't blame them as well, because when you do your research and you're a single woman with kids, they're not even disabled. If they're disabled, that's another money, and you're earning £2,000 per month that somebody on minimum wage cannot earn. So why would they want to work?
There are, I suppose the base nature would be, I don't see a need to because I'm entitled to it. But you're entitled to what price? As they say, there's such a thing as a free lunch. You may be getting your benefits, but the UK and you indirectly are paying the price for it.
No, absolutely.
I mean, I've worked since I was doing part-time job, delivering papers since I was 12. I can't imagine not working.
Yeah.
I can't imagine just doing nothing. And I think that rather than pointing the finger at such people, I think they're a victim of the culture, they're a victim of society that rewards it. Whereas, and it's difficult because there are potentially millions of people that fall into that trap. And we talked about the systemic problems as to the Home Office and what's gone on, but this relates to the United Kingdom. We have a large number of people. We have a huge unspoken elephant in the room. And if we're sitting there, neither of us have worked, our kids don't really have much of a prospect of working, and our parents aren't working, we could either say, do you know what, AO? It's on us, the country's in trouble. We're the reason. Or alternatively, you can say, that black fella.
Mm-hmm.
It's him.
It's easy to say the black fella, to be fair.
If they stop coming over here, taking our jobs, and we can then, and that I think is an unpleasant conversation. It's about personal responsibility, and it's a lot easier. I know for myself, it's a lot easier to blame other people rather than thinking, right, I need to get up, I need to go out and look for something. I don't really want to be doing this job, and I could be financially better off if I sat at home, but my self-worth, self-respect is going to be higher if I'm doing something. But no, I'll let the state look after me.
Fantastic. So guys, there you go. You've heard it all. We've unpacked a lot of things today, and thank you very much, Paul. You've been fantastic, and it's lovely having you in the studio. And guys, if you have any immigration problems, you know who to go to. Like, this wealth of knowledge is just blowing my mind. So run along, give him a call, or send him an email, or you can reach out to them on TikTok. What's your TikTok handle? TikTok is the Immigration Barrister. The Immigration Barrister. What I'm going to say there, I'm going to jump in there. I've been, there are fake accounts of me. Okay. So make sure it's the real me, and you can do that by sending a message and making sure that you get a proper UK number before you contact me. Absolutely. There you go. Don't go to the fake ones. They're click bots. But thank you very much for coming to the studio. You didn't have to be here. You and your lovely assistant, Cassie, I'll need to mention her name. She's been fantastic to me every step of the way. So thank you very much, and we wish you all the best. Thanks for having me. Thank you.